I never imagined that my sister Emma would humiliate me in front of 300 wedding guests, but that's exactly what happened when I refused to hand over the marketing agency I'd spent 7 years building from scratch. I'm Sophia Martinez, 29 years old, and I own one of Denver's most successful digital marketing firms. What started as a freelance operation in my tiny studio apartment has grown into a company with 12 employees and high-profile clients. But apparently, according to my family, that success should be shared with my younger sister, who's never worked a day in marketing in her life. The slap heard around the ballroom wasn't just about a business. It was the culmination of years of entitlement, manipulation, and my family's belief that Emma deserved everything I'd earned simply because she was the creative one who needed more support. Growing up in suburban Denver, our family looked picture perfect from the outside. My parents, Carmen and Robert Martinez, ran a small but successful restaurant called Corazon Familiar. Emma and I helped out during busy weekends, but our roles were always distinctly different. While I was methodically learning the business side, inventory management, customer service, basic accounting, Emma was encouraged to focus on the fun, creative aspects like designing new menu boards or arranging flowers for tables. Our parents praised her artistic flair while treating my practical contributions as expected rather than valued. "Sophia, you're so organized," my mother would say, as if being responsible was somehow limiting. "Emma has such a creative spirit. We need to nurture that gift." This pattern defined our childhood. When I saved my allowance for months to buy a professional camera for my photography hobby, Emma received an expensive art set just because. When I earned straight A's, it was expected. When Emma brought home C's with occasional B's, it was celebrated as improvement. In high school, I discovered my passion for marketing through a business class project. We had to create advertising campaigns for local businesses, and I was fascinated by the psychology of consumer behavior and the art of compelling storytelling. I spent countless hours researching successful campaigns, learning about brand positioning, and practicing graphic design skills. Emma, meanwhile, drifted through high school focused on her social life and constantly changing artistic interests, photography 1 month, painting the next, then jewelry making. Our parents funded each new passion with expensive supplies and classes, while I worked part-time at a local cafe to pay for marketing courses and design software. College reinforced these patterns. I earned a partial scholarship to the University of Colorado Boulder for business and marketing, supplementing it with student loans and continued part-time work. Emma attended community college for graphic design but dropped out after 2 semesters, claiming the structured environment stifled her creativity. While I was grinding through internships at marketing agencies, often working for free to gain experience, Emma was living at home, occasionally helping at the restaurant but mostly pursuing various artistic endeavors with our parents' financial support. My breakthrough came during my senior year when I created a social media campaign for a struggling local boutique. The campaign went viral locally, driving a 300% increase in foot traffic and online sales. The boutique owner, Maria Gonzalez, was so impressed she hired me part-time and connected me with other small business owners. By graduation, I had 5 regular clients and a growing reputation. That's when I made the decision that would define my future. Instead of accepting a corporate marketing position, I would start my own agency. Martinez Marketing Solutions began in my 400-square-foot studio apartment with a used desk from Craigslist and a determination to prove myself. The first year was brutal, 16-hour days, ramen noodle dinners, and constant stress about making rent. But I was building something that was entirely mine. Emma, who had moved back home after community college, often criticized my lifestyle during family dinners. "You're missing out on life, Sophia," she'd say, while showing off her latest painting. "There's more to existence than work and money." Easy words from someone whose rent and art supplies were funded by our parents. Despite the challenges, my business grew steadily. I landed a contract with a local tech startup that led to 3 more clients. A successful campaign for a Denver restaurant group brought regional attention. By year 3, I had hired my first employee and moved into a real office space. Emma's reaction to my success was complicated. She was proud, she claimed, but also resentful. "Some people just have natural business instincts," she'd tell people. as if my success was luck rather than relentless effort. The request started small. "Sophia, could you design a logo for my friend's pottery studio? She can't really pay, but it would be great exposure for you." Exposure doesn't pay bills, but I often helped anyway, wanting to maintain family harmony. Then came bigger asks. "Sophia, I have this amazing idea for an art therapy workshop. Could your agency handle the marketing? I know you do it at cost for family." Each request came with the implicit expectation that I should prioritize Emma's projects, regardless of my paying clients' needs. When I declined or suggested she hire a different agency, I was labeled selfish and unsupportive. By age 27, Martinez Marketing Solutions employed 8 people and had moved into a sleek downtown office. We specialized in integrated digital campaigns for mid-sized businesses, with particular expertise in the restaurant and hospitality industries. My team respected me, my clients valued our work, and I finally had financial security. That's when Emma met Daniel Wright. Daniel appeared at a gallery opening featuring Emma's latest photography series, abstract shots of urban decay that our parents had funded and promoted heavily within their social circles. He was charming, well-dressed, and claimed to run a consulting business that seemed deliberately vague in its actual focus. Emma was smitten immediately. "He understands the artist's struggle," she gushed during a family dinner. "He's so supportive of my vision." I was skeptical from our first meeting. Daniel asked probing questions about my business, our client roster, revenue projections, office lease terms that seemed oddly specific for casual conversation. When I deflected, he laughed it off as entrepreneurial curiosity. Their relationship progressed quickly. Within 6 months, they were engaged, and Emma was planning an elaborate wedding that would cost more than many people's annual salaries. The irony wasn't lost on me. The sister who had criticized my materialism was now obsessing over crystal chandeliers and designer flowers. "This is different," she explained when I raised an eyebrow at the $40,000 venue cost. "A wedding is about creating a magical experience, not just accumulating things." The magical experience, it turned out, would require significant financial support from our parents, who were already stretching their resources to fund Emma's artistic pursuits. When that proved insufficient, Emma turned to me with a request that should have been my first warning. "Sophia, I know you've always said family comes first," she began during what I thought was a casual coffee meetup. "Daniel and I are struggling with some of the wedding costs. Could Martinez Marketing handle our wedding promotional materials at cost? We want to create a whole brand around our wedding that we could maybe monetize later." The request was bizarre on multiple levels. Who creates promotional materials for their own wedding? And what did monetize later even mean? But I agreed to design their invitations and website at cost, wanting to support Emma's happiness. That initial accommodation opened floodgates. Suddenly, Emma had opinions about how my business should support not just her wedding, but her future plans with Daniel. "Once we're married, we're thinking about starting a lifestyle brand," she announced, combining my artistic vision with Daniel's business acumen. "Your agency would be perfect to handle all our marketing." The presumption that my company would automatically become their personal marketing department was stunning, but I tried to address it diplomatically. "Emma, I'd be happy to discuss potential projects, but we'd need to treat any work relationship professionally." "Professionally?" she repeated, as if the word was foreign. "Sophia, we're family. I'm not talking about being just another client." That distinction between family support and business exploitation became the fault line that would eventually tear us apart. The wedding planning consumed Emma's life and, by extension, our family's attention. Every conversation revolved around venue logistics, menu selections, and the endless drama of coordinating 300 guests. I was conscripted as maid of honor, a role that apparently included unlimited unpaid marketing consultation. "The photographer wants to feature our wedding in a luxury magazine," Emma informed me during one planning session. "Could your team create a media kit? And maybe handle all the PR coordination?" When I explained that such services would typically cost thousands of dollars, Emma's face fell. "I thought you'd want to help make my wedding special." The emotional manipulation was subtle but effective. How could I refuse to help my sister's special day, without seeming heartless. Meanwhile, my actual business was thriving. We landed a major contract with a Denver hotel chain, requiring significant time and resources. I was working 12-hour days again, but this time by choice, building something larger and more impactful than I'd ever imagined. Emma's reaction to my busy schedule was predictably self-centered. "You're missing all the important wedding meetings," she complained. "Your business will still be there after my wedding, but this is a once-in-a-lifetime event." The entitlement inherent in that statement, that my livelihood should pause for her party planning, exemplified the fundamental disconnect between us. 3 months before the wedding, Emma and Daniel made their most audacious request yet. They arrived at my office unannounced, interrupting a client presentation with what they called a business proposal. "Sophia, we've been thinking," Daniel began, his tone suggesting he'd rehearsed this conversation. "After the wedding, Emma and I want to start our lifestyle brand, but we need an established marketing foundation. What if we merged our visions? You could expand Martinez marketing to include lifestyle and artistic services, with Emma and me as partners." I stared at them, trying to process the suggestion. "You want to become partners in my company? Think of it as an evolution," Emma said excitedly. Martinez Marketing Solutions could become Martinez Creative Collective. We'd bring the artistic vision and lifestyle expertise while you handle the business operations. The proposal was breathtaking in its presumption. They wanted to insert themselves into the company I'd built, contribute undefined, artistic vision, and presumably share in the profits without having invested any of the years of struggle, financial risk, or industry expertise that had created our success. "This would be a major structural change," I said carefully. "What specific qualifications and capital would you be contributing?" Daniel's answer was telling. Emma's creative background and my consulting experience, plus our vision for expanding into lifestyle marketing. We wouldn't necessarily need to contribute capital since we'd be bringing intellectual assets. Intellectual assets. They wanted to become partners in my 7-year-old business by contributing ideas and Emma's proven artistic background. I declined as diplomatically as possible, explaining that any business partnership would require extensive planning, legal documentation, and clear definitions of roles and contributions. Emma left in tears, convinced I was rejecting her personally rather than protecting my business. That evening, my parents called for an emergency family meeting. "Sophia, Emma is devastated," my mother began. "She came home crying, saying you rejected her dreams of working together." "I didn't reject anything," I replied. "I said that any business partnership would need proper planning and documentation." My father frowned. "Why are you making this so complicated? She's your sister, and she's offering to help expand your business." The disconnect was profound. My parents saw Emma's proposal as generous assistance rather than a request to claim ownership of something she hadn't built. In their minds, my success was somehow a family asset rather than personal achievement. "Emma has always been the creative one," my mother continued. "Your business could benefit from her artistic vision. And Daniel has business experience," my father added. "This could be a wonderful opportunity for everyone." When I asked what specific business experience Daniel had, the answers were vague. "Consulting," they said. "Strategic planning." Nothing concrete or verifiable. I realized then that my parents had already committed emotionally to Emma and Daniel's plan without understanding its implications for my business or my future. The remaining months before the wedding were tense. Emma alternated between hurt silence and passive-aggressive comments about my selfishness. Our parents clearly sided with her, treating my business boundaries as family betrayal. Meanwhile, I began researching Daniel's background more thoroughly. What I discovered was troubling. His consulting business had no visible clients, office, or concrete services. His LinkedIn profile was suspiciously sparse, and online searches revealed a pattern of short-term involvement with various ventures that seemed to fizzle quickly. Most concerning were the subtle signs that Daniel was actively studying my business. He asked detailed questions about our client contracts, office lease terms, and employee compensation. When I mentioned challenges with a particular project, he offered unsolicited advice that demonstrated surprisingly detailed knowledge of our operations. I shared my concerns with my business mentor, Sarah Chun, who had guided me through various growth phases over the years. Trust your instincts, she advised. Successful businesses attract people who want shortcuts to success. Protect what you've built. Her words reinforced my growing conviction that Emma and Daniel's interest in my company had less to do with family collaboration and more to do with acquiring an established, profitable business without earning it. 2 weeks before the wedding, Emma made one final attempt to change my mind. She arrived at my apartment with tear-stained cheeks and a desperate story about their financial struggles. "Sophia, I need to tell you something," she began. "Daniel's business hasn't been doing well. We're struggling financially, and we thought partnering with you could solve both our problems, give us income, and give your business fresh, creative energy." The honesty was refreshing but also confirmed my suspicions. They weren't offering to enhance my business. They needed it to support themselves. "Emma, I appreciate you being direct," I said. "But my company can't be the solution to your financial problems. If you need income, there are many marketing agencies that hire account coordinators or creative assistants." "You don't understand," she replied, her desperation turning to anger. "This isn't about getting a job. This is about being partners, building something together as family." "Building something together means starting from scratch and sharing the risks," I countered. "You're asking to be given half of something I spent 7 years creating." She left angry, and I knew our relationship had crossed a point of no return. The morning of Emma's wedding dawned crisp and clear, Denver's mountains providing a stunning backdrop for what promised to be an elaborate celebration. I arrived at the luxury hotel early for hair and makeup, hoping to fulfill my maid of honor duties without further conflict. Emma's bridal suite was a flurry of activity: 6 bridesmaids, 2 makeup artists, a hairstylist, a photographer, and a videographer capturing every moment of preparation. The scene was undeniably beautiful, and for a moment, I allowed myself to hope that maybe we could get through the day without incident. "Sophia," Emma called out as I entered. "I need to talk to you privately." My heart sank. A private conversation on her wedding morning couldn't be good news. We stepped into the suite's bedroom, away from the chaos of preparation. Emma's expression was serious, her carefully applied makeup unable to hide the stress in her eyes. "I've been thinking all night," she began. "About us, about the business, about everything." I waited, hoping for reconciliation but preparing for confrontation. "I realize I've been approaching this wrong," she continued, and for a moment I felt relief. "Instead of asking to be partners immediately, what if we started smaller? What if Martinez Marketing hired Daniel as a consultant and me as creative director? We could prove ourselves while still working together as family." The proposal was slightly more reasonable than full partnership, but still problematic. "Emma, hiring decisions are based on qualifications and business needs. Daniel would need to interview like any consultant, and creative director is a senior position requiring extensive experience." Her face hardened. "So you won't even consider hiring your own sister?" "I'd consider any qualified candidate," I replied carefully. "But I won't create positions just for family members." "Qualified," she repeated bitterly. "According to you, only people with traditional business backgrounds are qualified. What about creativity? What about fresh perspectives?" We were heading into familiar territory, the assumption that my business success was somehow unfair or unearned, while Emma's artistic background automatically qualified her for any role she desired. "Emma, today is your wedding day," I said, trying to redirect. "Can we please focus on celebrating that? We can discuss business another time." "There won't be another time," she replied sharply. "After today, Daniel and I will be starting our own life, and we need this figured out. Either you support your family or you don't." The ultimatum hung in the air between us. Support your family, meaning give Emma what she wanted, or be branded as selfish and unsupportive. "I do support my family," I said quietly. "But that doesn't mean sacrificing my business to prove it." Emma's eyes filled with tears, whether from genuine emotion or calculated manipulation, I couldn't tell. I never thought my own sister would choose money over family. Before I could respond, she turned and walked back to the preparation chaos, leaving me alone with the familiar weight of family guilt and the growing certainty that our relationship was irreparably damaged. The wedding ceremony itself was undeniably beautiful. The hotel's garden terrace provided a stunning setting, with the Rocky Mountains visible in the distance and hundreds of white roses creating an elegant atmosphere. As maid of honor, I stood beside Emma, watching her exchange vows with Daniel in front of 300 guests. For a moment, seeing my sister's genuine happiness, I felt hope that maybe marriage would provide the stability and purpose she had always lacked. Perhaps Daniel, despite my reservations, would ground her and help her find direction. The ceremony concluded without incident, and I began to think we might navigate the reception peacefully. Emma seemed focused on her new husband and the celebration, temporarily setting aside our morning conflict. During the cocktail hour, I mingled with guests, many of whom knew about my business success. Several congratulated me on Martinez Marketing's recent achievements, including landing the hotel chain contract that had been featured in local business publications. "You must be so proud of Sophia," I overheard someone telling my parents. "Building that company from nothing at such a young age is remarkable." My mother's response was telling. "We're proud of both our daughters. Emma's artistic talents are just as valuable as Sophia's business skills." Even on Emma's wedding day, there was an undercurrent of competition, a need to elevate Emma's achievements to match mine rather than simply celebrating each daughter's unique path. The reception began traditionally with the wedding party's formal entrance, followed by Emma and Daniel's first dance. I performed my maid of honor duties efficiently, helping with the dress bustle, coordinating photo sessions, and ensuring the evening flowed smoothly. Dinner service proceeded without incident. I was seated at the head table between a groomsman I'd never met and Emma's college roommate, allowing me to observe the celebration while staying diplomatically neutral in conversations. Then came the speeches. Daniel's best man delivered the expected mix of humor and sentiment, sharing college stories and expressing confidence in the couple's future. My father spoke next, welcoming Daniel to the family with emotional words about love and commitment. As maid of honor, I was expected to speak last. I had prepared carefully, focusing on childhood memories of Emma and wishes for their happiness, while avoiding any reference to our recent conflicts. But before I could stand, Emma surprised everyone by taking the microphone. "Before Sophia gives her speech, Daniel and I want to share some exciting news with everyone," she announced, her voice carrying clearly through the ballroom's sound system. My stomach dropped. Emma's smile was radiant, but her eyes held a challenging glint I recognized from childhood. "As newlyweds, we're starting fresh in every way," she continued. "We're combining our lives, our dreams, and our professional goals. That's why we're thrilled to announce that we'll be joining Martinez Marketing Solutions as partners, bringing artistic vision and fresh energy to Sophia's wonderful business." The room erupted in applause. 300 guests, including clients, business contacts, and professional colleagues, congratulated Emma and Daniel on their new venture, while I sat frozen in shock. Emma had just publicly announced a partnership that didn't exist, in front of people who would judge my professionalism based on how I handled family business relationships. The applause continued as all eyes turned to me, expecting confirmation or additional details about this exciting family collaboration. I had seconds to decide how to respond. I could play along to avoid public embarrassment, potentially legitimizing Emma's false announcement. I could remain silent, allowing the misconception to stand. Or I could correct the record, publicly contradicting my sister on her wedding day. Years of conditioning pushed me toward the first option, preserve family harmony, deal with consequences later. But something had changed in me through this ordeal. Boundaries matter. Truth matters. Professional integrity matters. I stood and took the microphone Emma offered, my hand steadier than I expected. "I'm incredibly happy for Emma and Daniel as they begin their marriage," I said, my voice clear and calm. "They have my complete support and best wishes for their future together." I paused, looking out at the sea of expectant faces. However, I need to clarify something. While I'm always proud to support my family, Emma and Daniel will not be joining Martinez Marketing Solutions as partners. I'm confident they'll find their own path to success, and I look forward to seeing what they build together." The silence that followed was absolute. You could have heard a pin drop in that ballroom as 300 people processed the fact that the maid of honor had just publicly contradicted the bride's announcement. Emma's face went through a rapid transformation: shock, embarrassment, and finally rage. The carefully applied makeup couldn't hide the fury in her eyes as she realized her manipulation had backfired spectacularly. "How dare you?" she hissed, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "How dare you humiliate me at my own wedding?" "Emma, I'm not trying to humiliate anyone," I replied, still holding the microphone. "I'm simply clarifying the situation." "You selfish, jealous bitch," she screamed, her voice carrying across the silent ballroom. "You can't stand that I might have something good in my life." Before I could respond, Emma lunged forward and slapped me hard across the face. The crack of her palm against my cheek echoed through the ballroom, followed by audible gasps from the guests. The sting was immediate and sharp, bringing tears to my eyes, but I remained standing, refusing to escalate the situation further. "After everything our family has done for you," Emma continued, her voice shaking with rage, "this is how you repay us? By sabotaging my announcement and embarrassing me in front of everyone." I placed the microphone carefully on the head table, gathered my small clutch purse, and walked calmly through the stunned crowd toward the exit. Not a single person tried to stop me as I passed table after table of shocked guests, including several current clients and potential business contacts who had just witnessed this family meltdown. Outside the ballroom, the hotel's elegant lobby felt like a sanctuary. As I waited for my Uber, the tears finally came, not from physical pain, but from the public humiliation and the devastating realization that my relationship with Emma might be irreparably broken. What I didn't know then was that the slap witnessed by 300 people, including several prominent business leaders and a family court judge who happened to be among the guests, would have consequences that neither Emma nor Daniel had anticipated. The aftermath of the wedding was swift and brutal. By Monday morning, my phone was buzzing with calls from clients, colleagues, and industry contacts who had witnessed the incident. Some reached out with concern and support. Others seemed motivated by curiosity about the family drama. My assistant, Jennifer, fielded most of the calls while I tried to process what had happened and determine how to move forward professionally. The incident had been embarrassing, but I was surprised to find that most business contacts respected how I'd handled the situation. "You maintained professionalism under extreme pressure," said Michael Torres, the hotel chain executive who had been among the wedding guests. "That kind of integrity is exactly why we chose to work with Martinez Marketing." Not all reactions were supportive. My parents called that evening, their disappointment palpable through the phone. "Sophia, how could you humiliate your sister like that?" My mother began before I'd even said hello. "On her wedding day, in front of all those people?" "I didn't humiliate anyone," I replied wearily. "I corrected a false statement about my business." "You could have handled it privately later," my father added. "Instead, you chose to embarrass Emma publicly." The conversation revealed the fundamental disconnect that had always existed in our family. Emma's lie was framed as understandable enthusiasm, while my truthful correction was characterized as cruel betrayal. "She announced a business partnership that doesn't exist," I said, in front of my clients and professional contacts. I had to clarify the situation. "Family comes first, Sophia," my mother replied. "Business can be worked out later." "Business is my livelihood, Mom. It's not something I can sacrifice for family politics." They hung up disappointed, and I realized that our relationships would require significant repair work, if that was even possible. The most unexpected call came Tuesday afternoon from someone I didn't immediately recognize, Judge Patricia Reeves, who had been a guest at the wedding through family connections. "Ms. Martinez, I wanted to reach out after witnessing the incident at your sister's wedding," she began. "As someone who presides over business disputes regularly, I was impressed by your professionalism under pressure." Judge Reeves explained that she had been seated near several of my business contacts and had overheard their positive reactions to how I'd handled the situation. "Standing up for your professional integrity in that moment demonstrated remarkable character," she said. Her call reinforced something I was beginning to understand. While the incident had been personally devastating, it had actually enhanced my professional reputation among people who mattered for my business. Meanwhile, Emma and Daniel were struggling with the fallout from their honeymoon in Costa Rica. Photos posted on social media showed them in paradise, but their calls and texts revealed growing tension. Daniel's behavior became increasingly concerning. He contacted several of my clients directly, introducing himself as Emma's husband and suggesting they might benefit from fresh creative perspective that he and Emma could provide. These unsolicited outreaches damaged relationships I had spent years building. When I confronted Emma about Daniel's actions, her response was defensive rather than apologetic. "He's just trying to build relationships," she said. "Maybe if you had been more welcoming, he wouldn't have to reach out directly." The manipulation was breathtaking. Daniel's inappropriate contact with my clients was somehow my fault for not embracing their unwanted partnership. That's when I decided to investigate Daniel's background more thoroughly. What I discovered was alarming. Daniel Wright's consulting business existed primarily on paper. He had no verifiable clients, no office, and no concrete track record of successful projects. More troubling, there were indications of financial irregularities and potential fraud in his recent business activities. A former associate, reached through LinkedIn, painted a disturbing picture. "Daniel is charming and convincing," she warned, "but he's constantly looking for established businesses to infiltrate. He targets successful entrepreneurs, especially women, and tries to position himself as a partner or consultant. When that doesn't work, he sometimes tries more aggressive tactics." The pattern was chilling. Daniel had apparently identified Emma as his pathway into my successful business, using romance and family obligation as leverage. Armed with this information, I hired a business attorney to review my corporate structure and ensure Daniel had no legal pathway to claiming any involvement with Martinez Marketing Solutions. "You were smart to resist their partnership proposal," my attorney confirmed. "Without proper documentation and legal frameworks, they could have created significant liability issues for your company." 3 weeks after the wedding, Emma and Daniel returned from their honeymoon to face reality. Their wedding expenses had exceeded their budget by thousands of dollars. Daniel's consulting income remained virtually non-existent, and they had no concrete plan for generating income as a couple. Emma's solution was to escalate her demands on my business. "Sophia, we need to resolve this partnership situation immediately," she announced during an unscheduled visit to my office. "Daniel and I have bills to pay, and we can't wait around for you to stop being stubborn." "There is no partnership to resolve," I replied calmly. "I've been clear about that from the beginning." Daniel's mask finally slipped. "Look, Sophia, you built this business with family support. Your parents helped fund your education, Emma promoted your services within her social network, and the family restaurant connections provided some of your early clients. We're not asking for charity. We're claiming our fair share of something we helped create." The revisionist history was stunning. My education had been funded primarily through scholarships and student loans. Emma had never promoted my services. She'd actually criticized my work focus for years. And while a few early clients had restaurant connections, the vast majority of my success came from my own networking and reputation building. "That's not how business partnerships work," I explained. "Past family support doesn't create ownership claims on future success." "We'll see about that," Daniel replied ominously. The threat was vague but unsettling. That evening, I received a formal letter from an attorney representing Emma and Daniel, claiming that they had legitimate ownership claims on Martinez Marketing Solutions based on family investment and collaborative development. The legal claim was frivolous, my attorney assured me, but dealing with it would require time, money, and energy I preferred to invest in growing my business. "Frivolous lawsuits are a common harassment tactic," he explained. "They're hoping to pressure you into settling rather than fighting." Instead of settling, I decided to take a different approach. I hired a private investigator to thoroughly document Daniel's business history and financial situation, gathering evidence that would protect my company and potentially help my sister understand what she had married. The investigator's report was damning. Daniel had a pattern of targeting successful small business owners, often women, and attempting to insert himself into their operations through romantic relationships, family connections, or fraudulent partnership claims. He had left a trail of damaged businesses and destroyed relationships across 3 states. Most concerning, there were indications that Daniel had gambling debts that explained his desperate need for quick income and his focus on my profitable company as a solution. Armed with this evidence, I made a difficult decision. I would share the investigators' report with Emma, hoping to protect her from future manipulation, even though it might further damage our relationship. We met at a neutral coffee shop near her apartment. Emma arrived looking tired and stressed. The honeymoon glow completely faded. "Emma, I need to show you something," I began, sliding the investigator's report across the table. "It's about Daniel's business history." She barely glanced at the first page before pushing it back. "I'm not interested in whatever lies you've manufactured to make Daniel look bad." "These aren't lies," I insisted. "They're documented facts about his previous business relationships and financial situation." "You're so jealous," she replied, her voice rising. "You can't stand that I found someone successful who appreciates my talents." The delusion was complete. Despite all evidence to the contrary, Emma remained convinced that Daniel was a successful businessman and that my concerns were motivated by jealousy rather than legitimate worry for her well-being. That meeting was our last civil conversation. Over the following weeks, Emma and Daniel escalated their harassment, contacting my employees, clients, and even my landlord with false claims about my business practices and character. When they showed up at my office demanding access to financial records they claimed to need for their partnership, I finally sought a restraining order. The court hearing was scheduled for a rainy Thursday morning in downtown Denver. I arrived with my attorney and a folder full of evidence documenting their escalating harassment and false legal claims. Emma and Daniel appeared with their lawyer, a man whose expensive suit couldn't disguise his discomfort with the weak case he was representing. Judge Martinez, no relation, despite the shared surname, reviewed the evidence methodically before addressing the court. "This appears to be a clear case of business harassment disguised as a family dispute," she concluded. "The respondents have no legitimate claim to the petitioner's business and have engaged in a pattern of intimidation and false statements designed to damage her professional reputation." She granted a comprehensive restraining order, requiring Emma and Daniel to cease all contact with me, my business, and my employees for a minimum of 2 years. As we left the courthouse, I felt not triumph, but sadness. The legal victory was necessary to protect my business, but it represented the complete breakdown of my family relationships. My parents, who had attended the hearing in support of Emma, refused to speak to me afterward. In their minds, I had chosen business success over family loyalty, a perspective that ignored all the manipulation and harassment that had led to this moment. 6 months later, I learned through mutual friends that Emma and Daniel's marriage was crumbling. Daniel's gambling debts had become unmanageable, creditors were pursuing them for unpaid bills, and Emma had finally begun to see through his elaborate deceptions. When their divorce was finalized a year later, Emma moved back to our parents' house, her dreams of artistic success and glamorous marriage both thoroughly shattered. We haven't spoken since the court hearing, though I occasionally hear updates through the family grapevine. Emma is working as a graphic designer for a small nonprofit, earning modest income while rebuilding her life. Our parents remain convinced that I was too harsh and unforgiving, though they've stopped openly criticizing my decisions. Martinez Marketing Solutions continues to thrive. We've expanded to 15 employees and moved into a larger office space in downtown Denver's tech corridor. The incident at Emma's wedding, rather than damaging my reputation, has become a story about professional integrity that actually attracts clients who value clear boundaries and honest communication. I've learned valuable lessons about family dynamics, business protection, and the importance of maintaining boundaries even when they're emotionally difficult. Love without respect is ultimately destructive, and enabling harmful behavior doesn't help anyone, including the person being enabled. My penthouse apartment overlooking downtown Denver represents more than just professional success. It's a symbol of what's possible when you refuse to compromise your values for temporary peace. As I watch the sunrise paint the Rocky Mountains in shades of gold and pink, I'm grateful for the difficult lessons that led me here. Sometimes standing up for yourself feels like the end of everything, but it can actually be the beginning of something much better. Emma's slap in front of 300 people was meant to humiliate and control me. Instead, it freed me from a lifetime of manipulation and set the stage for authentic relationships built on mutual respect rather than obligation. I hope someday Emma and I can rebuild our relationship on healthier terms. But if that never happens, I've learned that protecting your professional integrity and personal boundaries isn't selfish. It's essential for creating a life worth living. The business I built through 7 years of hard work remains mine, as it should be. And the respect of colleagues who witnessed me stand up for truth under pressure is worth more than any family approval based on surrender and compromise. Standing your ground isn't always easy, but it's necessary for building a life of integrity and self-respect. 2 years after the restraining order expired, I received an unexpected email from Emma. The subject line simply read, "I owe you an apology." The message was brief but significant. "Sophia, I've been working with a therapist since my divorce, trying to understand the patterns that led to so much damage in my life. I'm not ready to talk yet, but I want you to know that I'm finally seeing how wrong I was about everything: the business, Daniel, the way I treated you. I'm working on becoming someone worthy of your forgiveness. Emma." I read the email 3 times before responding simply, "Thank you for reaching out. I'm glad you're taking care of yourself. When you're ready to talk, I'm willing to listen." It wasn't a reconciliation, but it was perhaps the first honest communication we'd had in years. Growth takes time, and some relationships require complete breakdown before they can be rebuilt on healthier foundations. My business continues to evolve and grow. Martinez Marketing Solutions now employs 22 people and has expanded into influencer marketing and e-commerce consulting. We've been recognized as one of Denver's fastest-growing small businesses, and I've been invited to speak at conferences about entrepreneurship and business development. The most rewarding aspect isn't the financial success or industry recognition, it's the team I've built. My employees respect the company culture we've created, one based on merit, clear communication, and mutual support rather than family politics or personal manipulation. I've also found love with someone who celebrates my success rather than trying to claim credit for it. Michael is an architect who runs his own firm, and he understands the dedication required to build something from nothing. Our relationship is built on partnership in the truest sense, 2 independent people choosing to share their lives while maintaining their individual achievements and identities. When colleagues ask about work-life balance, I tell them the truth. There is no perfect balance, only conscious choices about what matters most. I chose to protect what I built, even when it meant losing family relationships temporarily. That choice led to professional growth, personal peace, and eventually the possibility of healthier relationships based on genuine respect. The wedding slap that was meant to shame me into submission became the catalyst for the most important boundary setting of my life. It forced me to choose between temporary family harmony and long-term integrity, and I chose integrity. My advice to anyone facing similar situations is simple: your success is not community property, even within families. Love and support should uplift and encourage, not diminish or exploit. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is refuse to enable their harmful behavior, even if they hate you for it initially. The sister who slapped me in front of 300 people taught me lessons about self-respect that I couldn't have learned any other way. For that painful gift, I'm ultimately grateful. Emma may never fully understand the damage she caused or the strength she inadvertently helped me discover. But her actions force me to become someone who values truth over peace, integrity over approval, and self-respect over family obligation. That transformation was worth every difficult moment, every lost relationship, and every tear shed in the process of learning to stand up for myself. My Denver penthouse overlooks a city full of opportunities for people willing to work for them. Every morning, I'm reminded that success earned through dedication and integrity can never be taken away by others' entitlement or manipulation. The marketing agency that started in a tiny studio apartment has become something larger than I ever imagined. not just a business, but a testament to what's possible when you refuse to compromise your values for other people's comfort. And if anyone ever again suggests that my achievements should be shared simply because we're related, I'll remember the sound of that slap echoing through a silent ballroom, and I'll stand firm in the knowledge that I've already paid the price for my freedom to say no. Martina's marketing solutions will continue to grow, serving clients who value professionalism and results over family drama and emotional manipulation. My team will continue to thrive in an environment where merit matters more than relationships, and success is earned rather than inherited or demanded. The business I nearly lost to family pressure has become stronger precisely because I protected it. Sometimes the things you fight hardest to keep become the foundations for everything else you build. Emma's wedding day slap was meant to be my moment of public humiliation. Instead, it became my declaration of independence from a lifetime of manipulation and the beginning of a life lived on my own terms. For that unexpected gift, wrapped in pain and delivered with violence, I am eternally grateful. It took a slap to wake me up to my own worth, and now that I'm awake, I'll never go back to sleep. Have you ever had to choose between family expectations and personal integrity? How did you handle the pressure to sacrifice your achievements for someone else's demands? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe to hear more about building boundaries, protecting your success, and creating authentic relationships based on mutual respect rather than obligation. Remember, standing up for yourself isn't selfish. It's essential for living a life that truly belongs to you.